One.
All right. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody that's out there. I'm excited about today. Today is Cassandra.Lunch 126. I'll begin with sharing my screen here. And we've been at it with the Cassandra lunches for a while now. I think seeing that the venues are open, we might start doing some in-person events. So just look out for that. Today I'll be covering an old topic, which is a Cassandra.API that we did as a reference implementation on how to do like a Node.js or a Python API with Cassandra, specifically using Astra Cloud Cassandra as a service, and using ChatGPT to help make changes to it, but also to use the ChatGPT, or rather the GPT API in the code to do some natural language work. And my goal here is to show you how a person that may be in your position, like a developer, in this case, we're doing like a developer use case, how a little bit of knowledge of GPT can help you go such a long way. And that's why I put the GPT logo as like a co-presenter today, because I'm not doing all the work, I'm doing some of the work, and GPT is going to be doing some of it. Co-organizers, myself and Kui here, always looking for more help overall, not just at this group, but also in Data Community DC. Speakers, and we're part of a big group of meetups. And so we have data visualization, data science. In this case, we talk about Cassandra. We also have data wranglers. So data engineering lunch. Always, if you're interested in participating, speaking, sponsoring, please reach out to me here. We're a diverse group of meetups with a diverse group of people, and we encourage folks that are underrepresented to come and be part of and participate and lead. And we're always looking for new folks, especially folks that are new in career. This is a great way to connect and to build your professional profile. You can check out Data Community DC at datacommunitydc.org. We cover at this meetup anything related with Cassandra or Cassandra protocol, how you get data in and out of Cassandra, how you make APIs with Cassandra, other Cassandra variants, Spark, Kafka. If you're new, just introduce yourself in the chat and just say hi, what brings you here. And you know what? Another one is what you'd like covered in the future. And again, just ask the question in the chat. Akui will make me aware of the question either by pasting it into the Zoom chat that I'm on with him. And because I don't keep the YouTube chat open, it's kind of a little bit of distraction while I'm trying to do the presentation. We had not sponsored this group, and we have some other program sponsors that are in the industry. We also have updated this deck to include our organizational sponsor, Data Community DC. And again, if you have any announcements, anybody looking for work, anybody want to offer a job, any conferences, classes, we're always hiring part-time or full-time folks. We're a mix of full-time employees, contractor full-time, and as well as part-time contractors. So if anything, just to get into our network so we know who you are, I'd love to chat. We have Scylla DB Summit coming up in a few weeks. Our Cassandra lunch is every week at the same time as we're doing it right now, Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And then Data Engineers lunch is every Monday coming up at 12 p.m. Eastern. DataStax has weekly workshops. And then Allison and I, one of my colleagues, who's the head of success at Anant, we are presenting at Cassandra Summit, which will be in March 12 and 13. And so by the time the next Cassandra.Lunch comes around, I'll put the link up here. If you've missed anything or you want to go back, there's tons of topics we've talked about over the last few years. It's all on YouTube. Just look for Cassandra.Lunch. And we also have Cassandra.Link. It's our neutral knowledge base where we've curated a few thousand gems in the Cassandra community. And we also have news that comes from different RSS feeds, videos, you name it. Check it out. And a shout out to our runbook team that's been creating runbooks. We have runbook 13 out there, and it's on token imbalance, updating JVM heap size, and how to use noticing. And just go over to Anant.us and look for the download runbook. Sorry. Dog is being aggressive. Give me 1 second, I'll be right back, okay?
Sure, and while Raul comes back, if you have any questions for Raul, please just go ahead and drop them in the chat and I'll pass them along. Thanks.
Sorry about that. Kind of shorthanded today, so I can't deal with the dog and do the presentation, so just bear with me. Dog is a really nice dog, but whenever there's a stir of a mouse or a cricket, she goes a little crazy. So we'll get right into it. Today I want to just bring attention to an old, code base that we've had. I'll go through the deck and then I will do a little bit of a hands-on so you can see how I'm doing it. I don't think people quite believe the power of GPT until they see it. So we have a Cassandra API and we're going to use ChatGPT to help us make changes. And we're going to be using the OpenAI's GPT model in our own code. But that code is going to be written by ChatGPT. Large language models, like GPT-3, they've kind of just disrupted the way we think about software engineering, and even how we use AI in our data processing. Now, there's tons of people that talk about GPT-3 and LLMs in other areas like SEO content writing, book writing. What we're going to focus on is how do you use it in software engineering, and then how can you use it in data processing. Our company, we help platform owners reach beyond their potential to serve a global customer base that demands everything right now, so real-time global data applications. We do that with a playbook that helps them design, build, and manage their platforms so that they can focus on thinking and growing big. Got some good success with some amazing customers. So the agenda for today, I'm going to just walk through this structure of what are we trying to do, what's stopping us, what others have done, what are our options, and what do we do. And this framework, we actually use it when we think about clients and what type of platforms they're trying to design, so that we don't reinvent the wheel. Now, in our what are our options, that's really where the crux of what what's interesting about what we do is what is the problem and what are some hypotheses on how to solve that problem. And you'll notice I'm using the same approach today. So what are we trying to do? So let's just say that I have some content, I want to extract some keywords and save them. I want to summarize the content, and I have some code that is doing the content extraction, so I want to change that code. That's kind of what I want to do, right? Now, what may be stopping me is I may be unfamiliar with data science, machine learning concepts, entity extraction APIs, or just quite frankly, I haven't taken a look at the code in a while. And that's exactly what happened with this. Is like when I was thinking of topics, it's like, I haven't touched this code in a while. Let's see if ChatGPT can help me do some work on it. And like many things, if I'm unfamiliar with the whole area of technology, I also don't know what I don't know, right? So there may be many, many other ways that I could enhance this content. And what I mean by content, like data in a database, like Cassandra. So what have others done? So, you can go and shop around, look for different Python libraries. Sorry, I don't think I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, let me know if I'm not sharing my screen. So let's just go back a little bit so you guys see. Just start again. We can clip it out.
Yep, you can see the screen.
Okay, great. And so, we can go do that. We can go shop around for APIs. We can shop around for Python libraries. And, essentially, each of them do one or two things pretty well, right? A Python library will give you a set of functions, and it'll do one thing like entity extraction, or it'll do summarization. And same thing with an API, except you're calling an HTTP REST endpoint. And then if you have to get into it, like you got to reread the code, really understand what's happening, and figure it out, right? So what our options are is, well, we can do what others do, right? And that's not how we think. We try to think about what's new, what can we do better. So you can think about using ChatGPT to help us out. And then we can use GPT, which is the actual language model, for the hard machine learning work if it comes to text. So that's what GPT does. It deals with text. It's not like DALL-E, which is image generation, or something like Midjourney, which is art creation, right? Given some prompt. This just deals with text. So previously on Cassandra.Lunch, and on the Data Stacks Dev workshops, we went through a journey on what is Cassandra, why would you use it for an API? How do you use Cassandra with Spark? How do you use Cassandra with Spark and Kafka together? Okay, and that material eventually, comes together in two repositories: Cassandra.API, which has API in Python, API Node. It has some data importer that can get data in here into Astra. And then there's Cassandra.Realtime, which has Spark, Kafka, where we learn how to use Kafka Connect, Kafka Streams, Producer Consumer API, as well as Spark Streaming and Spark Batch against Cassandra. So together, if you're unfamiliar with Cassandra, Spark, and Kafka, these two repositories, and their READMEs are well documented. We do refresh them every now and then with kind of any changes to Astra, but you don't need any infrastructure to do this, because we use Gitpod, and Gitpod is just it's an IDE that looks like Visual Studio Code in your browser. It's free. If you have a GitHub account, you just say sign in with GitHub. And Astra is free. You get like $200 of credit. So you don't need any server infrastructure. You don't need a powerful computer. You could probably do it on your iPad. I know a friend who wanted to do machine learning and bought a $4,000 Mac. And I was like, dude, everybody does machine learning on the web now, right? Like Jupyter Hub and Colab. But anyways, same thing, same concept. You don't need big data infrastructure to do big data concepts. All right. And if you look on GitHub, just look for Cassandra.API or Cassandra.Realtime, and then on YouTube, there's one talk where we did it on Cassandra.Lunch, and then there's the 3 talks that we did at the Data Stacks Dev Workshop, which coincide with the different presentations. So that's all out there. It's been out there for a while. And when we publish this deck, these are links, so you'll be able to link to it, but you can always Google, you can always search YouTube. So a quick glance at the Python REST API, right? So we connect to Astra using a secure connect bundle. We do a quick check to see, can we even do a query, right? So this is simple, REST. And so continued, we use Flask to expose data. So we're doing a CQL query to say, hey, just get this data in this table, leaves, as JSON, right? So we have a REST API. That's a cool feature of Cassandra. You can say select JSON, and it'll just take your structured data and make it into a JSON. And we use that kind of across the different operations. So select, delete, select specifically this many items, or select specifically an item with a particular ID. And so, what we're going to, I'm going to just go out for a second. Of course, Zoom interferes with the basic operations of, okay. So just to kind of give you a tangible, reality of what the decks look like, so you can kind of follow along if you want later. And I'm not going to go through the whole previous decks, but just to show you, they get super detailed into, let's say, the Node API, the Python API. It talks about what Cassandra is, how do you model data in Cassandra, as well as some core concepts of Cassandra, right? And the one with Spark and Kafka. Actually, the second one is about how you event-driven API with Kafka and Cassandra. We go through, what are event-driven APIs, what are microservices. So they're super in-depth. If you don't know these topics, it's great to get introduced to them. And just to give you an idea, for example, what is a microservice? Why are microservices great on Cassandra? And then finally, the third, which is bringing it all together, Spark, Kafka, and Cassandra. We talk about Spark. We talk about, the difference between Spark Batch, Spark Streaming. And on the DataStax Devs channel, these are about hour and a half walkthroughs, and they're done in real time, so you can see me do them on the Git pod itself. So that's important for you to kind of physically see what's available to you. And then in terms of the actual Cassandra.API, I can go ahead and get rid of these. Something's funky. You can just click a button like open in Git pod, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and click open in Git pod. Continue. It takes a minute, but what it's doing in the background is it's understanding the code. And if you don't put a Git pod YAML, it actually figures out what type of environment you need, like if it's Python or Node, and it'll put your prerequisites in there. And it's super convenient to collaborate with people. And GitPod has been generous to our group. They've given us a professional account because we basically talk about them and use them. And all of our examples on Anant GitHub pretty much have a GitPod that you can just click and just try it out without having to download anything. So back to the presentation while this is kind of coming up. We'll just keep this maybe open over here. All right, so first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk with ChatGPT. Oh, it started to share the thing I didn't want it to share. So that's fine. Wait for it to go back here. Can you see my asking GPT for code example?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the first thing that we're going to ask GPT to do for us is look at some code that we already have that is doing some data importing, okay? And we're going to ask it to take some of the content that we're extracting from a file before we send it through to the database to do some natural language work for us. Now, as I said earlier, if I didn't know data science, if I didn't know machine learning, there's no way I would have been able to do this. But how did I get to my code? How did I get it to work? Well, I actually just told GPT, I said, I have a piece of Python code that is taking data from a JSON file, which is exactly what it's doing. So I'm setting the context, right? Setting the stage and saving it to Cassandra. In the middle of the for loop, I have this code, and I put some code in here, and I'll show you that in a second. But I'm going to do it in real time. I would like to take the context_text, which is one of the fields we pull from the file, send it to OpenAI's GPT API to get a list of extracted technical keywords in a new field called keywords, and proper nouns such as names of products, products, companies, people, and places into a new field called entities. Can you give me the code I can insert right after this code, right? And you know what, I'm going to just share my actual screen and not the tab. I think that's what's causing all this, right? Yeah. So if I look at my data importer code, just so that you can look at the context of what I'm talking about, right? And I'll increase the font size here, hopefully. Let me zoom in. Oh, I don't think I can do this. Okay, there we go. So it's the same thing that was in the presentation, right? And there's a lot of stuff in here that I can give it. So like, this is my code, if, you know, and essentially in this for loop, after it picks up the file, it goes through and gets content, right? So like, this is the content_text, right? And I wanted to give me some new fields like keywords and entities that it's going to extract using the OpenAI GPT library. Okay, and so I'll show you what I actually asked it, and I'm going to do it again. I said, here's my piece of code, right? And where I had in the presentation insert here, I just took some part of the code that made sense, which is where it was extracting content or content text, and a little bit more of the code where it was setting some variables, right? And then gave it the rest of the prompt, which is, hey, I want some new fields, right? And I gave it this, I just literally copied this whole thing into the chat. And I have one open. There's the availability for the free version is getting better and better, but I'm just pasting this in here, right? Here's my preface, here's my context, here's some code I gave it, literally just copied and pasted it, no special formatting. And I said, I want these fields, right? And then I'm just going to press enter. And it may give me an answer that's slightly different than what I got before, but I did save that output. But it starts to say, hey, here's what you can do. You can use this OpenAPI library. You put your key here. It made a function called extract entities. This is interesting. It didn't do that last time. Note that it's giving it a prompt, extract keywords and entities from the following text, right, which is the function input parameter here. It figures out that the response is going to come in 2 lines, and it splits it, and then it splits the keywords and entities again by comma, and there you go, right? It's essentially done the work for me. So not only is it giving me code, which is amazing, right? It's also done the work on how to talk to that API, which I don't know anything about I do know something about OpenAI, right? But let's say I didn't, I had no idea. It just gave that to me, right? So this is one. Now the example it gave me yesterday was slightly different. I don't think I saved it. Yeah, I don't think I saved that. That was very rudimentary. But yesterday it gave me code that didn't even have a method in there, right? It just gave me this, right? And he's like, just put the code here. So depending on what you ask it, the same exact question will give you two different results because this is a non-deterministic system. Okay, meaning it's not going to give you the same answer every time. Now, if you use the API itself, there's a thing called temperature, where if you give it 0, I think that's what it is. It means that it'll be very deterministic, and if you give it 1, it'll be very undeterministic. So in this one, it's 50-50. Okay. So you know what? I'm going to copy this code right here, and in my editor, in fact, because it's a method, right? I can put OpenAPI here, and I'm going to have to install it. Here's my key, and then the definition will be fine where it is, right? And I can take this and put it in my for loop after the context is set, right? And technically this should work. I need to have an open API key, right? So I'll get that in a second. This, I'll just keep my my variable declarations kind of thing here. Let me see where I can make an improvement. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. So let's go ahead and grab a key. So OpenAI is the company that manufactures ChatGPT. ChatGPT is this interface, right? This GUI that anybody could use. And then it also provides an API, which has been around for a couple of years. So ChatGPT came out in November. OpenAI has released different algorithms over the last 2 years. There's lots of tools out there, AI tools for content writing that are powered by the same API that we're about to use. And you do get some credits. So ChatGPT is free. They're going to have a paid version soon. The API is not free, but they give you some money to work with. And they have a lot of different examples. So, you know, technically, when we talk to ChatGPT, which is the user interface, it determines the best algorithm to use and give the answer back, right? And so text completion is what it's doing. I gave it a question and it completed the text. But the task that I gave it to do to make the code for is actually a search or classifying. So it can use a different algorithm that is less complicated to give me classification, keywords, etc., than something that's more for content generation, right? And then if it's code related, it uses a different algorithm called Codex. Okay, and I'm not going to do a deep dive into OpenAI. That's like a whole course in itself. But this is what the playground looks like. So like what it gave us in code right here, if I wanted to try this out, right, I could take this, okay, put it here. Yeah, did they put a prompt in that one? Yeah, I put a prompt in it. So I shouldn't say it put a prompt in it. And I have seen other examples I could play with that it gives you, right? And it's using DaVinci 02. So text DaVinci 002. It looks like they're no longer offering. So they've simplified it. They used to have a lot more available. Or maybe on the front end, only these are available. So it explains to you, this is the most capable model. This is for classification, sentiment, summarization, right? Moderate classification, semantic search. ADA is for simple classification, address correction, things like that, keywords. So if you see this little circle, that tells you how heavy it is. And it costs more. So something like DaVinci costs 2 cents per 1,000 tokens, which is roughly 750 words. That means like you can give it a 750 word prompt, and then if it creates another 750, that's 100, another 750 token. If you give it 750 words, which is 1,000 tokens, and it generates 1,000 tokens, it's going to be 2,000 tokens, right? But it can do up to 4,000. It's pretty powerful. And then there are other ones that are much cheaper. So I think Ada is the cheapest one. It's like 0.0004 cents per 1,000 tokens, right? So you're not going to use every model for every task. Minimum length, maximum length, right? So I can say, give me back 4,000 tokens, or just give me back, let's say, 0.50. So just to make a distinction, right? Because ChatGPT is using its own API behind the scenes, it's not really exposing any of that to you, right? It chooses the model, and it gives you as much as it can, right? It doesn't stop until it hits that 4,000 token limit, right? And we'll talk about how we can get around that in a second. But when you're in the API, which we're looking at the playground here, and when we're actually in the code right here, you have to give it some parameters. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying stop sequences. I don't have any stop sequences. After a certain thing comes back, I can say stop. Right? Don't continue generating content. You can say this is what I want before the output and after the output. So if you want to have some structured data coming back from it, you can say begin X, right, and end Y. And then the N is this right here, which is best of, right? So I said best of one, just give me one, or you can give me many, many other options. So let's go ahead and run this, right? So extract the keywords and entities for the following text. And I'm just going to go to my data file, which I have somewhere. I'm pretty sure I have a data file here. Otherwise, how is it? Let's take a look at the data file. Where is it stored? Here were assets data. There it is. Okay. So this is the file that we're going to be parsing in, but I don't want to run that operation on whatever, 1,000 items. I just want to take one value and just check it out. This is a 40 megabyte file, right? Right, so you notice there's 904 instances of content text. That's roughly 1,000. Okay, so did it give me what I was looking for? No, okay, this is going to be a little difficult, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go to a web page, right, and do a search here. So what kind of content we're looking for? Okay, let's just take a look at Cassandra content. So Cassandra, how to on data modeling. There we go, data modeling. And we'll just take one of these, introduction. And I'm just going to copy and paste this in here. Okay, don't give it too much, but we'll just give enough. I think that's a good stopping point there. Okay. And going back to my playground, I'm just going to paste it. Right. So essentially what my API operation that GPT gave me in my import, right, is essentially what I'm playing with in the playground, which is given the model, given this prompt, and given this text, and giving it, I'm going to change it to have the same tokens, no stop words, and then temperature of 0.5, right? So 5. So 8. No, I guess I have to use this little binky thing here, okay? I couldn't do O2 here, but that's okay. And we'll do a, let's say, for some reason it's not taking my button. There we go. Okay, perfect. And the rest of it kind of looks fine. So let's run it. So it gave this, right? And then it gave me the keywords. And then it gave me entities. Okay. And that's essentially what would be coming back through the API, right? We can do another one. We'll just go to, let's say, news.google. Actually, you know what? I'll go and try something new. I can say, extract keywords, entities, and a summary, let's say a 250-word summary for the following text. Okay. Same prompt, same context. And I'm going to delete what it gave here, right? It gave me this answer back. No, I don't need this here. I'll get rid of this. And I'll submit it. So it gave me a summary. It gave me keywords. It gave me entities. And I think it repeated. Oh, no, that's like just a general summary. And then this is the 250-word summarization of that. I can also go back and say, from the following text, without any introduction, right? Meaning I don't want this other stuff before it. Okay, I just want the thing I asked it for. It's still doing it. Oh, gotcha. I see what it's doing. And the playground is helpful for us to kind of test out our API calls before we just go ahead and start wasting tokens, right? So it's still not giving me exactly what I want, but you notice that all of these are data science operations that I didn't need to know anything about, right? I just told it in English what to do, and it's giving me extracted entities, extracted keywords, a summary, without me knowing anything about data science. And actually, what I'm going to try again here is extract keywords, entities, and 250-word summary from the following text. Give me answers as a list. Okay. Remove this again. it's still insisting on oh, I think I know what's happening. I think I know what's happening. I figured it out. So it is completing. It's completing this part of the content first, and then it's doing this, right? So if I just remove this thing right here, so it doesn't expect anything, and I'll put like a quote around it, right? I put a quote, and there's no other quotes, so it should interfere. Then what it's going to do is it's going to do exactly what I was asking it, right? It's not going to complete the last text. There we go. Now it's giving me exactly what I'm looking for, right? Some structured content, keywords, entities, summary. And once I know what prompt I like, right, I can just go here, go back to my code, right? And so what I learned through the playground, I can go back and put it in my code here. And it's going to give me back summaries as well. And I'm just adding in here. Is that what it gave me? Summary, yeah, give me summary. And that looks good. Technically, it should be one line if it's giving it back to me. So this should be fine. Yeah. And I'm going to give back summary. Call it summary. Okay. And then it had given me other code, if you remember, right, that I had inserted here. I'll just say this is equal to summary. So our changes that ChatGPT helped us make are in place. We tested the API, talking to OpenAI, and we need to go ahead and run this to make sure that it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out the CQL aspect of it. Okay, I just want to see, right, the doc that I'm creating. Right, I'm making a document here, and I want to do it, for a few documents, not all of them, right? Because I'm just trying it out. So a number of documents I'm going to go through are like, let's say 2, right? Let's just do 2. It's going to read 2 documents, and then it will basically quit. And instead of sending it to Cassandra using CQL, it's just going to show it to me on the screen, right? The important thing is that I don't have OpenAI in my Python environment, so I'm going to add it to my requirements text. And if I look at my, yes, I'll just do pip install -r requirements text. Using pip, okay, fine. I'll just do pip 3 then. Oh, am I in the right directory? Maybe I'm not. Oh, I'm not in the right directory. That's what I'm saying. Astra.import. There we go. Okay. So it is getting my driver. It's getting the OpenAI library, and it's getting requests, which we're not going to use in this particular program, but it's going to go ahead and do it. And while that's happening, I want to show you the other example, which I don't think I'll be able to demonstrate it, but at least you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. My other example was I have a REST API, and then there's a method in there called process URL, which extracts content using beautiful soup, and I wanted to do the similar thing, right? Extract entities and keywords. So I said I have some code that's given a URL extract, given a URL extracts content from a web page using beautiful soup in Python. I would like it to add the results to add to the results a few more items that come from the OpenAI GPT API. And remember, this prompt has nothing to do with the other prompt, right? It has no idea because I made a new chat, and I put the code that I needed help with, which was a full method, and I said I would like to take the content text and send it to OpenAI to get a list of extracted technical keywords. The same exact need, it's just a different context, different code, but I'm trying to do the same thing, right? So if you break up what you're trying to do into this, set the context, give it something to look at, and then you ask it very specifically what you're looking for, then it works out pretty well. And you can have more advanced structures in your request. So what I sometimes do is I say, here's what I'm trying to do, and here's the preface for a subpart of that, what I'm trying to do. Here's the context, here's what you can take a look at. and here's what I need, right? And then I say, and this is the next thing that I need, and then this is the next thing that I need, and this is the next thing that I need. And when I do that in the ChatGPT UI, it keeps that context, and it allows me to get above that 4,000 token limit, basically, right? Because I give it the context, the subcontext, and I'm now requesting small requests. And when you're working on a complex program and you need help and many different things, that's what you're going to have to do anyways. Okay. And so the code that I asked it was, I said, here's my, and I'll paste it into ChatGPT, right? So, and I saved the output because I wasn't sure GPT would be up and running. Sometimes it's not available. The AI API is high availability, right? It's been in production for a while, but the ChatGPT UI is just kind of, recently put out there. So here's my prompt, right? Here's my code. Here's my full method. And then I said what I wanted to do. Let's let it work its magic. So similar to these says, you need to get a few things. Now, note that it made a mistake, okay? And it's likely that because I'm doing it in the same chat, right, it has already told me to import OpenAI, but it's wrong, right? I could not take this whole thing and get it to work because if I don't have the OpenAI, oh, you know what? It's not wrong. Instead of using the OpenAI library that it's using here, it actually decided to use just HTTP requests library instead. So that's an example of it. It's not always going to give you the same answer for the same question. Okay. Now, let's say I do want it to use the OpenAI library, right? I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to edit this and I'm going to say using the OpenAI Python library, right? So I give more specific instructions or more specific context. And there you go, right? It's very, very specific. It says this is how you get the library. Here's how you set the code. And then here's your function that it's writing for you. So same question, just slightly different. Now it's giving you answers in a different way. So you have one aspect of this whole GPT world that you can get really good at, which is how do you talk to the machine in the chat to get at what you want, right? And the other part of it is the AI API, the model that's powering this ChatGPT engine, how to use that. And what I did was I actually use ChatGPT to become better at using the API that's available to me. Now, this happens sometimes. It has a network error, and that's okay. I just go back and I say submit, and it'll just start over again, right? Sometimes you have to refresh. The reliability of ChatGPT is just going to get better and better. So this is what's happening, right? A lot of people are using it. It's free. Some of the people in our team have gotten messages like, oh, you need to start paying $42 a month to get high availability access. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. And if it doesn't do it, I still have an answer that it gave me before. Let's see how our Git pod is doing. Oops. Oh, okay, so it went ahead and installed everything I needed. Going back to my REST to Astra API. Remember, I did not put in my there we go. I needed to give it a key, right? My API key. So let's go ahead and get the key. So the way you get your key is just go to your personal, your API keys. I don't care because I've already figured out this is what I want. I'm just going to make a new key, right? And I'm going to throw it away afterwards. I don't need it after this. Okay. And I think I'm pretty ready to go, right? I should basically be able to run this like this. And will I get an error? I may get an error when it's trying to connect. Okay, right. Okay. Maybe I should just go ahead and do the Astra part of it too. You know what? I will leave that out for a little bit, okay? Because I'm not doing any Cassandra stuff right now. I'm just gonna comment this out. We'll come back to this. Yeah, the rest of it, I think we can go on. All right, so I just pasted the run command here. Let's see what happens. No, go back. Oh, one directory. It did not find the. Maybe if I do Python. Invalid syntax. Import. Blah, 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 blah. What did it say? Okay, so there's some issues that it's having with Python 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and do pip 3 on here. Okay. Okay, couldn't find some data, blah, blah, blah. So I know why that's a problem. It's because it's in one directory up. And I'll just do Astra import. Okay, so what happened? It gave me an error. This model's maximum context length is 4,000 tokens, but you've given me 5,000 tokens. 4,200 in the prompt and 1,000 for the completion. So that's a problem, right? My content has so much content in it, it's not going to be able to do it, right? So what I'm going to do is get just a part of the content. There we go. There we go. Right here, right? And, you know, I know enough Python to get around, right? But let's say I need help, right? I can say here, I can go to ChatGPT and I can say, how do I get only 2,000 characters from the summary variable in Python, right? Oh, now it's not doing it. All right, that's okay. I still have a backup method, which is, oh, there you go. It looks like it's back. And there it is, right? So even if I don't know Python, I can go ahead and ask it very specific questions like, I need help with this. Hey, tell me how to do this. Okay, so let's try that again. Oh, I see what is happening. I don't need to do that here. I need to do that here. And I'm going to ask it slightly differently. right? I'm just going to get that link earlier. I think that should work. Yeah. And let's try it again. And it looks like it did something. So this is JSON. And what I'm looking for here is keywords. It'll do it for me. Come on. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to save it into like a text file and see what it gave me. All right, stop this. And sorry, it's got a lot of content in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy everything. You know what else I can do? What I'm going to do is actually not display everything, right? I'm going to shorten the output to just concentrate on the content that I got back, right? Let's try that. Get back down here. So you know what? I don't necessarily care about all of these in that big document. So I'm just going to hide the rest of this stuff, right? Let's see. These are variables. Yeah, variable checks. I'm just going to get this. I don't need all of this junk in here. Right. Like this. Yeah, like this. Remember, my goal here is just to make sure my API is working before I save it. Almost there. No, it's my type. I really just want to see these three, right? I don't even care that much about the content. I don't care about. I guess I need this in order to. I need this. Yeah, I don't need this. Yeah, I'm going to keep it just to be safe. And then preview picture, not important right now. Language, fine. Keep the title because. Okay, let's try this again. It's doing something. Okay, so we notice that it's getting the keywords and entities in the output, but for some reason, it's not showing up, right? Meaning it's not getting any data, right? So we need to figure out what's happening, right? So let's think about what could be the issue. One thing that could be the issue is because we're giving it HTML, right? That it could be not, parsing it properly, right? But there is actually two values in that dictionary, content and content text. And content text should be text. So, what is it that could be the issue where it's not getting these? And what I can do is I can go to my method that I'm using, right? Which was DaVinci 2. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and give it DaVinci 3, and which is a little bit smarter. And I'm going to try that again. It's doing something. There we go. And you saw like when it was, you know, oh, here we go. So this is working now. So keywords, right? Business development, sales, leads, transactions, entities, business development rep, sales representative, account executive. Summary: business development and sales are two distinct functions that are often confused by being in. So it's actually working, right? And so if I wanted to take this and put this into Cassandra, I would just uncomment the stuff I commented, right? And I would connect up Astra connectivity, and I would just say, you know what, insert into it. So we're out of time today, and I apologize for that. We'll have another continuation where we'll take what we learned today, and we'll make sure this is working. But we can also think about inserting this intelligence into a stream processing, like a Kafka stream processor, like Kafka Streams, Kafka Connect, or Spark processing, right? And the goal here is to just show this kind of collaboration between man and machine to work on engineering tasks, while at the same time using this smart machine to do some very deep text processing that you used to require really specific domain knowledge for, right? There's no way I can, I don't remember doing this manually, right? Like entity and keyword extraction, it wasn't this easy. You couldn't just tell the machine, hey, this is what I want, right? So I encourage all of you to pull down Gitpod from our Cassandra.API repository, open up ChatGPT, and try asking it some questions, right? And see where it takes you, right? I have a few takeaways. I'm sorry we don't have the time for questions, but a few takeaways for you. Don't reinvent the wheel, right? ChatGPT is doing so much for you. Try it out. Go learn, and also don't try to learn it all on your own. I learn all what I'm looking at through ChatGPT itself by asking it questions, but also on YouTube and Google. There's tons of people that are doing this stuff out there now. Use your brain plus GPT, right? You're a smart person. Your problem solving, analysis, architecture skills are still relevant. If you know how to ask the question, it will give you the answer. But you will know how to ask the question if you're thinking like an engineer, you're thinking like an analyst, you're thinking like an architect, right? If you're thinking like a beginner, it's going to give you beginner answers. If you think like a master, you think like an architect, it's going to give you good answers, right? It's giving you exactly what you want. It's like a good programmer can make good programs. A good prompter, right? Who understands the problem that they're solving, they can give good problems to solve. They will get good solutions. ChatGPT is a general helper, right? It's an assistant. It's not a substitute. You notice that it gives different answers. My colleague JB, he says it does 80 to 90% of the work if you ask it properly, but you still have to kind of do the rest of it, right? You notice I still have to copy and paste the code. It didn't do that for me. The OpenAI GPT API is very specific, right? You notice that I changed one model from text DaVinci 02 to text DaVinci 03, and all of a sudden it started working. If I were to have sent it to Curie 03 or whatever, which is for classification, it may or may not have been good. Okay, I don't know. So you have to be very specific. You have to learn how to use distinctive models. But if you start using ChatGPT first, and you start to understand how prompts get answers, then you can go to the next level, which is to use the API and create prompts that are structured to get structured answers. And then map out what you need to do, right? So I had a pretty clear idea that somewhere between getting the data from here into Astra, I wanted to get some more information. So I didn't really draw out a diagram for that. But if you map out your problem, then you can explain exactly where you need help. And sorry to keep you guys a little bit over. That's all for today. Thank you and dream big. And if you're interested in doing this kind of stuff, playing around, feel free to contact us. And also, if you're just learning and you're just a professional, there's our playbook that's available. You can join our mailing list to be updated on new content, new events. And we have a bunch of videos, or we have a bunch of examples you can play around with. I will decide if I want to take the Git pod that I'm working and make a different branch for it, or make a completely different, kind of a fork of the code. But by the time we're in the next session, what I was working on, I'm going to have that available so people can just try it out. Okay. So thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time. Same place, same time. Thank you.